Hello, everybody. Welcome. Happy Sunday. How is everybody? Hope you're all doing well. I see James, and I see Carol, and I see Craig, and I see Gina. The gang is all here. Welcome, everybody. So this, if you don't know, this is a spiritual show where I answer spiritual questions. We do have guests. We're going to have a guest next week. We're going to have Marie Manchuri back. She's amazing. And so we'll have lots of fun questions for her. And so I hope you guys join me next week. But today is just going to be me answering questions for you. And I either answer them myself if I know, like if I, had it come across my radar before in readings or whatever, or if it's something that I just happen to know. And if I don't, I hand it over to my guides and we get to find out some things together. Okay. So I hope I know this is a hell of a week, right? A long, kind of weird, sad, weird week. I'm sad. Cassie went home yesterday, so I'm sad. but I'm good. So she's home safe, so that's good. So I just did a video that talks about some political things and stuff. I tried to get it up before I got on, but I sometimes YouTube takes a little bit, so I'm going to put it up right after this. So it'll answer some just kind of world questions and some of the stuff that happened this week. And so check that out. That will be up after this. So I'm hoping to get it up right after. So be like up within, hopefully 5 or 10 minutes after I get off here. So hopefully that will be good. And yeah. So I wanted to just start out by sometimes my guys will give me something to hit on before we start. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll just say, just start. But today they wanted me to bring in a message about higher order. We've talked about this before on the channel. But I want to bring in a couple of examples that came to mind when we were thinking about this. And the idea of higher order is that we judge things as good or bad, in the moment. Our mind does that. We place it in a category as a good or bad. But the idea behind a higher order is that we don't really know what's good or bad. It's just our take on it. It's what we can see right in front of us, and it's our own judgment. But that we don't really know the big reason as to why this is happening or the big way this is going. And that we're always in constant flux and flow. And that's kind of how it is here. Now it's very, it's on another kind of consciousness level to see everything like that, to be neutral on everything. We tend to say this is good or this is bad, this is horrible or this is whatever, but we also don't know the higher order of it. What are the bigger reasons this is happening until years down the road or where we can see, in the future, why this is happening. So a couple of things they brought up one was the idea of guns. And, I am not a gun owner or a gun lover. I don't like them in a box or with a box, or I'm just don't like them. But right now, I do think that there is in fact, recently, I'm going to, trigger warning, I'm going to say the name Trump, but he was, floating the idea of taking people's guns away. Right. So, but I think about that now, and I think, well, this could be the reason that they're not just knocking down people's doors right now, that they don't know what's on the other side of the door. They don't know. And not only do we have guns, we have military style guns out there, which again, not a great thing, right? And we've been trying, liberals have been trying to get rid of guns forever. But I think right now, this could be very interesting that people have guns. And is this why we're not seeing bigger displays of just people going into people's houses, knocking down people's doors, etc.? We don't know. We'll see, right? But higher order, right? There's something, sometimes we can't see why, what may be coming, how this may be a benefit rather than a hindrance. So, okay, so it's an example, just giving you an example. Another, on the micro level, the example is we've been trying to get Cassie and her husband here. And almost every day I ask the question, and I say, well, why can't they be here? Why aren't they here? This is just not fair. It's not fair. And I also say, but I just want them to be safe. I just want them to be safe and happy. So wherever they are, it's okay, as long as they're safe and happy. But now, I go into a little bit more in the other video I'm going to be putting up, but I'm so glad she's not here. With all of the upset and all the stuff, and as she was here, this week, and she said, this is so stressful, Mom. How are you living with this day to day? It's so hard. And when she went home, I was sad for her to leave. But I said to myself, I'm so glad that she's safe, in a different way than I've been saying it, right? It's kind of like, oh, I guess she's, at least she's safe and happy, it's fine, but she's not here. And now I'm like, I'm glad she's not here because and I know she's safe, right? As a young woman, like she's a young woman, and her husband, his family are Jewish. They're not practicing, but they feel it's very scary for them to hear and see some of the things they've seen going on here. So I think that at least they're safe, right? But it's that higher order that I couldn't see all this time, and now I see it differently, right? All right, so that's what they wanted me to bring in, is that we judge things as good or bad, but we don't have the full context. We don't have the full picture. There's always higher order. There's always higher order. Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm going to start with the questions. Oh, Sparky. Yeah, Sparky wrote me and apologized. It's like, it's okay, because I gave her a reading and I guess it was like, it doesn't resonate, which is fine. I don't take any of this stuff personally, Sparky, at all. I literally see myself as the messenger. I really am just the messenger. I don't judge the messages coming through. I don't judge how people take it or don't take it. It's like, this is what I'm getting, and that's all I can say. And I can be wrong as well. I can be wrong. I'm a reader that can be wrong. So I never take it personally. So please don't worry, Sparky. It's totally fine. I don't have my ego really attached to the stuff I bring through anymore. I can't really to be able to read. So it's okay. Do not worry. So Alex is saying a prayer request for his 25-year-old grandson died suddenly under suspicious circumstances. He was a National Guard and left behind a baby girl. I simply want answers and justice. Oh, I'm so sorry, Alex. Okay, absolutely. We'll say a prayer for your grandson, this baby girl. I'm so sorry, and I hope you get all the answers that you need. I'm just getting some confirmation that he's okay. So Alex, he made it to the other side. He's fine. he feels like you're going to have everything that you need. You're going to have all the understanding soon. Okay, Alex, so hang in there. Okay. But yeah, so welcome everybody, God King Tony Clifton. Oh, I need a new video. I watched the end and I'll always be straight with you. Like, okay. So yeah, it's coming. I thought my video. Okay. Yes, it's coming. It will be up in probably 5 or 10 minutes after we're done here. So, okay. And Gina. Okay. Do all aspects of our soul incarnate in one lifetime, or only part of our soul? Other parts of our soul may be experiencing other lifetimes or with our higher self. Thanks. So that's a complicated question. I almost don't even understand the question, but I'm going to hand it over to my guides because I know they do. And whatever comes out, comes out. Okay. So they're showing things like they're literally showing like cells splitting. I feel like they're saying that, you know, a lot of the answers to our questions are all around us, and I just got chills with that for some reason. But they're saying that like when they show the cells splitting, it's almost like that's like our soul. We can kind of split, and we can have multiple different types of experiences. So they're saying it's this idea that when we're on the other side, there's no time, right? It's kind of everything happening at once. And that's a weird concept to think of. So they're saying that it has more to do with not so much like Gina's here having this experience, and you're also having at the same time another experience over in Africa as your soul has split and you're having this other. They're saying it's not quite like that. Think of it as like splitting, but that in that other dimensional idea of being where there's no time. And so they're saying in that, like, kind of all like things are possible, that kind of idea, but they're showing that split. That's where the idea of splitting happens. It's not so much like we're having a bunch of experiences here on the earth plane, 2025, even in different timelines. They're saying that's not quite right. The reason I feel like they're maybe being like, just know that's not quite it, is because I may not have the knowledge or understanding that I need to be able to explain what it is. But they're kind of like, to just begin to understand it, first go to this place of no time, that all things are happening at once. And so in that place, everything's accessible. So you could be like, at least this is the way they'll tell me if this is not right, but what I'm feeling like and what I'm kind of thinking this could mean is like, on the other side, say that Gina passes away and goes to the other side and you're having your life review, that you can be having your life review and at the same time there is an existence of you participating in a past life and participating in this life, and maybe it participating in future lifetimes, but it's sort of all accessible. And so in that way, it's kind of like you're all these different places, right? So they're saying, put yourself in that dimension first to understand this idea of kind of soul splitting and having multiple experiences at once and that kind of thing. Asking if there's any like real world examples they can give that might help us. Okay, so they're saying like, you might be able to understand it through the idea of the mind, and they're showing like a person like sitting down and writing a letter, right? And they're writing a letter, and they're writing the letter about the past. So in their mind, they're kind of reliving the past, right? And they're really involved in this, and it's like they're there, right? It's like it's they're in the past, and then maybe someone calls them from the room, and it's almost like they return to the here and now. So they're saying that could be an example of kind of a real world example to understand how you can be in different places at the same time. That's what they're talking about. Okay, so that's just a real world example, right? How we can kind of, oh, it's kind of like this. So it's kind of like in that time, it's kind of like you're physically in this space of the room writing the letter, but your mind is somewhere else. It's completely in another space, and it isn't until someone calls you that you kind of bring everything back to this, right? So I hope that explains that, Gina, at least in the limited understandings that I have. They're probably like, why this one? Okay. I'll say, how long does our soul have to remain on the other side before we can come back here? So, and I might have guessed this, but they're saying that it's so individual. Usually with people, because animals apparently can go back pretty quickly, pretty fast, no time at all. It's almost like and it's because they're from the like the angelic realms, or the higher heavenly realms. They don't have really they can review the life, but it's their mission is so different that it's not like you learned this and you learned this and this was wrong and or whatever, yeah, or this this wasn't the best choice, whatever. They're kind of absolved of all that just because they're animals and they're from the angelic realm, so they just don't have that. They don't have that. So that same kind. It's not the same reasons they come here. So it's very quick. But they're saying when you're a person, depending on lots of things, how your life went this time. Are you waiting for soul family and you all want to go back together? There could be a lot of different reasons. Or you're waiting for a specific unfolding to happen on the earth plane before you come back, or whatever. Maybe you're like, I don't want to go back while there's still tons of racism in this country that I love to live in. I want to wait till we're past that, or whatever. There could be a ton of different reasons why people take the time they do on the other side. Some people, they're saying, are very, their soul personality is kind of very meticulous, and so they want to really play with every detail and decide the perfect way to come back. And so it depends on the soul and how they operate, but it also depends on your personal reasons or your macro reasons, or what the big soul reasons. Maybe I know that right now there were a lot of us, and I'll say us, I'm going to include you guys too, that wanted to be here for this shift and this movement that we're going to be having. We wanted to be here to help. So there's that, like a macro reason, right? And then we have all these little micro reasons why. But they're saying that most people, it's years. It's not usually like they'll turn around and come back in 6 months. It's usually years on the earth plane. It's years. And they said everybody's very, very different. They're showing my own things that I know about myself is kind of like I dawdled. I kind of, they had to keep saying, stop, okay, enough of this. Come on, let's do this. If you want to do this, let's go. It was, and I could see myself being that way, being like, I just want to be a flower right now or whatever. I don't want to do that. But it's different for everybody. But it seems like they're saying animals, it could be very quick, months. With humans, it's usually years, and it can be decades and decades. And they're even saying some people choose not to come back, especially if they've had a really, really difficult life, or they impacted a whole lot of people. They may want to come back in a position to help, like undo some of that, or they may not want to come back and just think, I don't want to do that. I don't want to mess things up, or I want to do that again. They take time to kind of work on their soul, on their soul growth in other ways rather than coming to the earth plane, right? So, all right. So I hope that explains that. Oh, and Craig says more dreams are happening. That's great. And I hope that you are writing everything down, Craig. I even got that with like in lots of things, in daydreaming, and even like signs you get from the universe. Write them down. Write things, like record things. It's important for some reason. I feel like it's important now. So yeah, recording is a great idea. Recording your thoughts, recording your feelings, recording, how how these times and these things are impacting you, but also recording the spiritual stuff, like writing if you have a spiritual experience of any kind, or you have a weird coincidence or signs or messages or things, write them down. Okay, so Moon Compass. Can a soul come here for the sole reason of teaching humanity a lesson? Yeah, and they're like, yes, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of souls like that right now that are here just for, I even feel like this feeling of like, to go to Earth and help out. It's kind of like these hesitant, like, hesitant good Samaritans coming and assisting. So I think this happens quite a bit, and I feel like it's happening now. A lot of people have come just to help. So yes. Yeah, James says romper room. Yes, James. So funny thing about romper room, I had a friend, and I remember this so well. And she's feisty. She's a feisty girl. But my friend was on romper room when we were about, I don't know, we were probably 4, maybe older. But I remember watching her on the episode, and she got in like a fight with like a kid. They were like standing in line for something, and he kind of pushed her out of the way, and man, she walloped him, pushed him right back. And her mother was mortified, but she was like, he pushed me, a 4-year-old. He pushed me. Okay. Question: are we a part of our soul yet also a separate consciousness? And if so, do we merge back in after incarnation and lose our current identity, or how does that work? We a part of our soul yet also a separate consciousness. Okay. I can probably answer this. I'm going to ask if there's anything else that they want to talk about. So it is separate. It's all encompassed in our physicality, right? So, and this is even talked about in A New Earth. We have an identity, a physical being that we are, and within that is our higher self, our soul self. He calls it the quiet observer in the background. If you observe your own thoughts, if you watch your own thoughts, the watcher is your soul. I talked about this in the New Earth class, but there's this is a really good example. There was a woman who had a near-death experience, and in that near-death experience, her soul, she had this split with the ego and the soul. And what was happening physically is that she got hit by a truck on her bike, and she on her bike was being dragged under the truck. Horrible. And when that happened, she had a consciousness split, and her consciousness, or her soul self, was standing on the side of the road watching what was happening. And she kept bouncing back and forth. She kept going to this soul self, watching what was happening, and then she'd go back into the physical self, the ego self, being dragged. And then she kept bouncing kind of back and forth. And she said when she was in that spirit state, watching, that she was perfectly calm, perfectly fine, completely at peace, had no real connection to the body, was just kind of watching, and knew that everything was okay. And then underneath it was like pure panic, complete, utter and pure panic, and confusion, and all of the things that you have in something like that. But when you have those moments, I think a good example is when something shocking happens, or when you're in an emergency. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you. Oops. I froze. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but when you've had an emergency, or when something has happened that is some kind of emergency situation, and you kind of become completely present and completely calm, you stepped into that space. And it's usually when you have all that clarity. It's like you can remember every CPR class you've ever had. You can remember exactly who to call. It's almost like you have complete clarity in that moment, but there's also a calm that comes with it. And what's happened is that's what's happened. You've kind of moved into that because you're so present. And that's why we talk all the time about being present, because that's where you can access that. When you're thinking of the past and the future, you're in your head. And that's the soul self. That's the part of, that's the ego self. That's the part of her being dragged all over and feeling that physical stuff and being very physical. And the identity and all the things that you identify with, your religion, or it's all part of the physical ego identity. But that quiet part of us in the background, that spirit part of us, is there. So they're separate. When you're born, your soul, the soul enters the body at different times. It can enter while it's still in the womb. It can enter when it's out. Some people, they'll bounce back and forth for a really long period of time, and they remember doing that. But they're separate in that way, because, and to have this physical experience, the soul has to be born into a body and has to die to get out. It's the only realm like that. And die, now we know, you can be in a coma, your body is just shut down enough that you can leave. Otherwise, there's kind of a field that holds you in. This is what they're saying. There's some kind of like physical field that holds you in. It almost looks like, to me, as they're showing it to me, it looks like light. But there's some kind of thing that needs to be dimmed that will allow you to get out. You've had a near death experience or an out of body experience. Your body was shut down enough for you to have that experience. You can learn how to do that. So, but yeah, so that's how it works. So I hope that I explained that enough. I hope that's good enough. Okay, but thank you for that question, Compass. So Leslie, I do talk about this in the video that's coming up with. So I'm gonna not answer this just because it's in the video. It talks all about dark and light and all of these things. It talks about all of this stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of leave that, but I'm gonna put up the video that I made in like 5 or 10 minutes, and you can see it. Okay, so just so you won't have to wait too much longer. From the other side, can we see, this is Mount Sunshine, can we see what is happening in the whole world, or do we see what things pertain to our spiritual family? They're showing literally like a laminate that says all access. So you have access to everything. So they're talking about, it's kind of like you have to, like desire to be there, or have an intention to go there, or be there, or be wherever you want to be. But I feel like, and they're trying to show like, I don't know if it's like, because I feel like there are people, like spirits around doing this all the time. But I feel like there's kind of like that like those that are interested. And I kind of feel like it's like you have some sort of connection to the earth, your family's still there, or you intend to go back, or because I've always had the feeling, Mountain Sunshine, that one of the reasons that I am so that I love the 60s so much, the music and the just all of the stuff going on in the 60s and the fashion and all that stuff, I feel like I was really immersed in what was going on during the 60s and kind of around, because I was going to be born soon. And I was kind of like, what's going on right now? What's happening right now? It's kind of like, and so I feel like that's what they're talking about when they're saying when you have an interest in it, you have all access. You can see what's going on anywhere. But usually there's a reason, usually like that, like you're coming to Earth soon, or you just left and you want to see what's happening. You still care about like what's happening here or there. But so often our attention shifts. It's almost like it doesn't matter as much when we're here. So there kind of there's usually a reason why you're so interested or why you want to know. And, some people, maybe they pass away and they always wanted to travel. So they're like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go look at Egypt and I'm going to go look at this. And you can do that. So they're saying there's people doing that all the time, but for all different kinds of reasons. It's not just, and usually there's some kind of connection to Earth, and this is why you're doing it. A spirit that has never been to Earth, has no connection with Earth, they wouldn't be doing stuff like that. It's people that have some sort of a connection, but the connection can be far and wide. It can be very vast. But they're saying their spirit's doing that all the time, all the time. Yeah. Okay. And they're even saying that, just FYI, they're saying that you can also time travel, basically. So you could come to Earth, or you could have the experience of being in a certain place at Earth at a certain time. It's not just, it's like the Earth plane. And I don't know if that's done differently, or if it's actually on the Earth plane, or what they mean by that. But it's kind of like the time is also available, so like visiting times and visiting places on Earth at that time, which is cool, right? Very cool. But okay. Okay. So once again, James, I kind of go into this, but how do we maintain our sanity in the midst of madness? So I'm going to just talk about, in the 2025 predictions that I did, they talked about this, exactly what's going on, because they said the first few weeks, probably a few months, but first several weeks of the administration coming in was going to be insanity, and the energies were going to be crazy. And to kind of avoid this, or to kind of have a less intense experience with this, to guard your energy, to guard and really take responsibility for your energy. This means taking responsibility for how you take in information, how often you take in information, what social media you follow, if you follow any, taking responsibility in that way. So that's one way to guard watch your energy. But they also talked about everything during this period being so confusing, not knowing who to believe, or not knowing what you're seeing, or not understanding what's going on, or how this can happen. It's like a lot of confusion, and almost like when they showed it to me, it's almost like you lose your equilibrium. Everything's off. It feels like everything is it's so confusing. And so for that, they said to find moments of quiet and just breathe. And what will happen is that, like we were just talking about, when you become present, you become aligned with your soul. And in that, you have clarity. And so that's what I spend so much time doing right now, because I read, right? And so these energies, again, I talk about in the video, but these energies are so intense, and they're all over the place. And so as a reader, you have to really, really be disciplined and really, really careful to find that clarity and find that space often, and get really, really good at maneuvering into that. And so, how you do that is by practicing. You practice every day. And what that looks like is just sitting, breathing, using your senses to bring you to the here and now. So just like looking around the room that you're in, feeling, that I'm here, I'm right now, and just getting centered, and then kind of being in that space, and you'll get clarity. you might get messages. But what usually happens is there'll be a calm that comes in. And it's because you're kind of sitting in that seat of the soul. You kind of found that center place where your spirit aligns with your ego, or aligns with yourself, your identity. And you kind of found that seat of the soul where you're kind of moving into that. You're still alive, you're still awake, you're still everything, but you've kind of moved into another consciousness. You found that pure consciousness that we're talking about, that spirit self. When you do, it feels very different. It feels, again, very calm, very neutral. And in that, there is clarity. Usually things become clear as to what's really going on. You can see it. It's like it becomes clear. And also that is the space you'll receive information or just feeling connected to kind of everything. You kind of feel like everything's okay. And when you're in that space, it's like everything's fine. And then when you come out of that space, it's like everything's crazy. How could you say everything's fine? But that in that space, you just feel it. There's a feeling. So that's what you want to move into as much as you can. And adding a spiritual practice of some kind, whether it's prayer, whether it's sitting in silence, yoga, Tai Chi, adding something that gets you kind of centered and in that space every day. So you're not just ruminating in this three-dimensional space all the time. When you do things like that, you move out of that. You move into the fourth dimension, or you might move into the fifth dimension. When you're feeling at peace and everything is fine, all is well, that's the fifth dimensional space. That's what it feels like. And when you move into that consciousness, that higher consciousness, you're there. You're there. Okay, so I hope that helps, or at least gives you some ideas of anything that brings you to the present too. It's that same kind of space. If you paint, or if you garden, and how do you know you're in that space? Because you usually lose time. It usually feels like I was so involved, I didn't even realize that 3 hours passed. When you're in that flow, that's what you're in. It is like because you're in another dimension. You're in the fifth dimension, and you come back and you're like, oh, that was weird. So anyway, okay. So okay. Yeah, James, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Hamlet, yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, it's not what's happening. So what we tell ourselves about what's happening, right? Because what's happening is just happening. It's something's happening. But we tell ourselves, and we go into the future, what could happen? What could this mean? Or what could it, we go into all of that. And yeah, it's what we do. It's what we do here. Yeah. Follow-up question on the movie star sending me cigarette smoke. Is it my dad? He made one movie. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely, Bernie, because she was getting cigarette smoke, and I said it's somebody. It feels like somebody famous. But yeah, and if and also the way he may have wanted to come across is like, I'm a movie star. Absolutely. And Bernie, usually, I always say when you get something like that, or when you have like you see a butterfly and you just kind of know that's my mom, or if you have, something happen and the first person that comes to mind, that's usually who it is. And so if you're feeling like, I kind of feel like it's my dad, go with that. Go with that. It may be the way he wanted to come across, that he wanted to come across as like, I'm a movie star. I've done a movie. You don't know who I am. But it was weird because it felt like a movie star, but still connected to you. So yeah, I mean, you were there. You heard what I said. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, see, isn't that funny, Pam? I abhor guns, but if I had a family to protect, I'd get a gun. Yeah, see, that's the thing, right? It's this weird, um, it's very interesting. So it's going to be very interesting in this situation what part guns play. They may not play any like part as far as fighting or that kind of thing, but just the fact that that's why they can't go door to door and drag people out because they don't know what people have because we've got guns in the city. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting. It's just kind of an example, of how a higher order can work and how it may have worked in this circumstance. It's very interesting. Okay. Yeah, and that's exactly it. And it's the part you want to play, right? Because hypnicity says we live in tumultuous times, most important things support each other in peace and love. And yeah, and I got on here when this all happened, and I said I want to be a helper, and so that's always the approach that I'm trying to take. I just want to help. So I have asked that to my guides, give me what I can do to help. So they made me do the New Earth classes, and then they're like this empath thing that needs to happen, and I'm just kind of going with it. And on the this level, I'm also trying to help give money to stuff, through the channel and personally, and trying to help in our community with prayers and with things. So I want to be a helper, right? I want to be one of those people that's helping. Um, Bringing in the light, bringing in the positivity, right? So to decide who you want to be and do that on your own level, right? It empowers you. It makes you feel like I know my part. I know what I'm contributing, and it's not negative. I'm not going to contribute any negativity. Um, it doesn't mean you can't have feelings sometimes like that. Um, even Eckhart Tolle, you could drink. I just said his name says and I mentioned it in the other video that you can have a high quality no, right? A no that's not based in ego. It's just a high quality no. We don't want to live in this kind of society. We don't want this to happen to people. We don't want people to be, unprotected or not have homes or not, right? So it's a high quality no, a no with a higher purpose. He even says that it's okay to complain if the complaint is if you're trying to use complaining to change something, right? Complaining just to complain is just complaining, right? It's just putting negativity out there. But if you're voicing something to try to create change, that has a different energy to it. And you think about all those people at those town halls, right? Expressing they're complaining, right? They're expressing something, but they're trying to bring about change. So those places don't necessarily have negative energy. They just have moving energy, wanting to move something, right? So it's different. But being clear on your intention and the part you want to play really helps. It takes a lot of the guesswork out. If you have a lane and you want to stay in that lane, it makes it very easy in how you react and how you respond, right? Yeah, and it comes in different ways, right? Hearing your mom say, God knows what he's doing. And God, some people hear God and they think of dogma and that kind of thing. So you don't use that word. Don't use it in that way if you don't want to. Another way of putting that is the universe is always striving for balance. The universe is always evolving. It's its natural impulse is to grow and change and evolve. To create is also another impulse. So this is happening, and you can push back and want to go backwards all you want. It's going to move forward. It's going to move forward here eventually. It's just the way that it is. So, you can't stop the beat, as they talked about in Hairspray. Yeah, and Pam, that's true. I mean, England's in it, the whole world, right? They're watching what's happening. The thing is, Pam, is that I think that there is somewhat of an understanding that this is our government. It's not us, right? We can separate, right, the Russian people from the Russian government, right? We can do that. We have that understanding. But it also pushes people to make a change. It pushes people, if you say, oh, you're not our ally anymore, you're not our friend anymore, it pushes people inside saying, well, we don't want to be with these guys, we want to be with these guys. And so maybe it stirs people's tendencies, right? So, but yeah, things can change, things can be different. Okay. And James is killing it. James has a lot of amazing, different, amazing quotes and things that you're bringing out. Thank you for doing that, and thank you everybody for you've got prayers for Alex in there, and thank you everybody for taking care of each other. And this is what it's about, right? This community and coming together. Hey, Terry, holding your space. Yeah, that's it. Gosh, I know, Rhonda, I'm right there with you. What is it gonna take? Okay, I'm gonna take a couple more questions. Yeah, the Gene Hackman thing was really, really sad. I really felt, I'll just say this just because I did get feelings about it. And I did feel like it was all around health and kind of like health decline. And I did feel like there was sort of I'll just say like a self-determination kind of thing in that situation. I'm sure everything will come out, but that was kind of my feeling about it. But I felt like it was very, very sad and very hard decisions to be made. But I felt like it was all around health. And so, and as we're learning, a lot of these things are coming out. So, but I'm sure the whole story will come out. And I don't have the whole story, but those are the things that came up for me. Yeah, no worries, Miss Beachbomber. It's okay. It's okay. It's like we can't, avoid the fact we're living in the world. We're living in the world, and like I said, it's the guys did not say don't look at the news. They said protect your energy. Right? Everybody's different, and so for me, that means taking it in small doses, and also sitting with things, feeling things fully, right? So I'm not just this, all the time, feeling things fully, crying, I think a lot of people, I watched last night, pulled up a thing after this whole stuff went and the Oval Office, a vet crying for Zelensky. These things they're very emotional, and and so being able to feel those feelings and sit with them and asking your guides to come in and be with you, and your guides to give you clarity and things like that. That's how I kind of deal with everything and able to work through things. And I will feel better. I will feel like I get some clarity on stuff or how I should be kind of processing this, So yeah, that's what we have to do, kind of take things, at least that's my answer, is kind of taking things in little bite-sized pieces and making sure I've kind of processed something fully until I see what else has happened, right? Because it's coming so fast and so furious. We don't have to move at that pace. We don't. Okay. Hi, John of New. Welcome. Glad you're here. Okay. Okay, I think I answered this question. I'll let you guys go, and I will put up that video, and you guys can watch that when you feel like it. And that's that. So Sue C. Question. Hi, Kim. Hello. In regards to soul contracts, my mom died suddenly at age 50. Oh, I'm sorry. I was 17. Why would you choose to leave so early? Did I also choose this? Okay, so let me. So what I'm getting, there can be, they're kind of like it's infinity. It's like infinity that why people can decide to leave at a certain age or leave at a certain time or leave early, even though it causes all this havoc in the family or all these things in the family. And they're talking about, I don't know if this is about this specifically, but a, a lot of sometimes when parents, maybe they'll pass away from like a heart condition or some other kind of like a health condition, it might make the children more aware of their health going forward. It also may make them more apt to appreciate every day, knowing that people can be gone so quickly. And they learn this at such an early age. My dad's dad died when he was 14. And my dad he was so in the moment. He was so appreciative of the small pleasures of life. He never got angry. He had a completely different view of life and how precious it was because of when he lost his father. It colored his whole life, right? So it can be for lots. They're saying like infinity reasons for depending on the family, depending on the soul group, depending on, what they're working on, what they, there may have also been a reversal. Maybe in one life you left early and this life she's leaving early. Things like that can happen where it's kind of like a karmic thing. But it's usually when people die young, this is just a little like almost like a secret from the universe being revealed, because they talked about, in the 2025 predictions, they talked about groups of people leaving during this time over the next few years. But it's not going to be like COVID. It's going to be like different reasons. But the reason people leave in groups is to call attention to something. Even if it's just for a moment. We forget how selfless we are as souls. We will be like, oh, this, I'll exit here to give this attention, or I'll exit here to help this person. It's not, we're all connected and we're all doing this together. So that's not, we understand that as souls. When we get here, it's like every man for himself. We're all in different lives, different circumstances, and in separate bodies and separate brains, and we feel so separate from each other. But that's not real. It's an illusion, right? It's the illusion created to give us that experience, but that's not the truth. We're very selfless as souls, and so we don't see it as like, oh, that's going to be way too hard of a life if you leave at this time. It's going to be like this. I'll grow so much and I'll learn so much if this happens, and this will stick because it will be my mom, and it won't, so we think so differently when we're planning a life and we're planning circumstances. To me, though, this feels very planned, Sue, just by the way, and this is why this is all coming up. But you also might see what it meant to your life. The lessons, so the more the harder stuff, but also the positive, the things that were actually I learned to look at life this way, or I learned this, or I learned that, or I learned to watch my health, or whatever. Look at it fully, kind of step back and look at it kind of almost neutrally, so you can see all of the things that may have the positive and the challenges, what may have happened because of this, and it will tell you the story of why you probably did this, but they're just saying that it can be for lots and lots of reasons. But a little secret from the universe is that when people leave early like this, and it impacts the family or impacts a lot of people, it's usually to call attention to something. It's usually to wake up the family, and this has happened, and it's almost like you've shifted everything in a different mode. That's what it is to do that. It's to shake things up and wake people up in a different way. But that's usually the reason when people die early, die out of nowhere, but also groups. When groups leave, it's to wake people up to something. Yeah. So, and they're just bringing in again that there's going to be these groups leaving for a myriad of different reasons, but it's to wake us up in different ways and to call attention to certain things, right? Wake people up. And right now we have a lot of people, half of our country is kind of asleep, right? Have kind of been walking through this haze of like lies, being lied to and stuff. So we have a whole half of our country to wake up, right? Okay, so but once again, right, we're selfless as souls. That's all we want to do is help each other, because we know in helping each other we're helping ourselves. We all benefit. It's all positive, right? It's looked at so differently than it is here. We see that in our community, right? We all want to give and help each other and stuff like that. But in the spirit realm, that's it. We clearly know we're all connected, right? Here it's a little bit different. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you so much for hanging out and coming out. And yeah, James, I think sometimes they are. Sometimes you do have those fun, those lessons that are fun, achievements and positive things that happen, and you helping other people and seeing the benefits of that, and whatever. There's a lot of enjoyable and fun lessons, but really the ones that sometimes we need and sometimes that impact us so deeply are the difficult ones, those hard ones. We tend to learn the big lessons through suffering, and it's I don't think they want it that way. It's just that that's what breaks through this very, very dense place we're in, and these dense, egos that need that, that cracking open sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. And thank you for sharing so openly and so honestly. And I really appreciate it. I know everybody benefits when we share like this. So thank you so much for hanging out in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for being here and for participating. I'll see everybody tomorrow for our new Earth class, and our empath class starts Thursday. I have a couple of spots. If you're interested in that, I'll send you the information. But yeah, so thank you. Thank you, Winged Victory. I appreciate that. Where are you? Oh, you're up here. Sorry. And thank you, Cat Lady. Thank you. Thank you. I hope I am a helper. I hope that. All right, everybody take care. I'll get that other video up and I'll talk to you soon. All right.